Going to get started. So hello, everyone. This is Erica Dean with the Parent Resource Center, and I am so thrilled to be with you all today to bring you this webinar on military-connected students and school transition. So this is a webinar for families, and it's brought to us by Stacy Huisman, and she is an Air Force spouse, freelance writer, and advocate with a passion for military-connected children and their families. She's dedicated the last decade to understanding the challenges military kids face when changing schools. And let me tell you, she is a gift of resources, knowledge, and encouragement. So I hope that you all will enjoy this and reach back out to her, to us for additional support. We are here to support our military families in any way that we can. Thank you for being with us today, Stacy.
Oh, Erica, thank you so much. And thank you to the Parent Resource Center for Fairfax County Public Schools, because it says a lot about you and your organization that you're willing to put this out there for military connected families. So we appreciate you. Absolutely. So, all right, well, let's just get right into this and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to discuss today military connected students and school transition. It's kind of a hot topic, especially for military families who recently moved through the pandemic, not only this year, but last year. This webinar will be one of a four-part series covering all kinds of aspects of military family life and relating always to school transition. So we're going to start off today with a little bit of background about me, not very much, and then we're going to get right into what we call the seasons of transition for military kids. It's based on the book that I wrote. I co-authored with my another military spouse, an educator. Once we get a better standing of it, you're going to be able to recognize the battle rhythm of a school transition in military life, and you probably intuitively knew it all, but that we're going to put words to what you're feeling. And ideally you're going to be able to support your students at home and partnership with their school. I'll also cover some real basic tools and strategies to help support your students over the upcoming weeks. And we're going to chat about PCSing through this pandemic. It was hard, people. It was very, very hard. I've moved lots of times, and I will tell you, PCSing this last time was one of the hardest experiences I've ever endured. So I'm sure many of you have similar stories. Okay, and of course, at the very end, I'm going to share some great resources for you, some that you might know, some maybe you have never heard of, and I'm happy to share those with you, both local and national. All right, so let's get started. Okay, let's just get me over with here. My name is Stacy Huisman, and I'm a military spouse of two, and I have, let me just see at the start. Sorry. I'm a military spouse of two. I'm a journalist. I'm a book author. I'm a parent educator. I've been doing this for, I don't know, so many years now. I love it. I co-wrote the book, my seasons of my military student with my co-author. Her name is Dr. Amanda Tremillos. She's also a military connected family. She's an educator, and she did her doctoral, interestingly enough, in basically educator professional development and how much do they know about military kids. She is such a resource, and together, her and I wrote this book. My husband's in the Air Force. He's on year 28. We are ready to get out one day soon, fingers crossed. And when we wrote this book, Amanda and I, we actually wrote this book in the middle of a move over 2 continents, and our children actually experience the seasons themselves. The most important thing you need to know about me is that I am a journalist, and my niche is military connected kids. That's all I write about them in public education. It's my passion. I've written over 200 articles about this subject, and it's something that's very near and dear to me. I have 2 military connected kids, like I said before, and they are in middle school and high school. And we have moved, I think, 14 times, but 9 with children. So that's me in a nutshell. Let's get started. Okay, so in my book with Amanda that we wrote, Military Seasons of My Military Students, we developed this concept called Seasons of Transition. It's basically a cycle. Each move and each school change initiates a cycle of the seasons. Now, what are the seasons? These seasons don't always follow the school calendar. So it's not like we start in January and the season goes through December. It's not that type of season. It's a season of a school transition. The seasons always begin with the season of leaving. Now, why is that? Because it's the most chaotic. It's the jump start. It's the beginning of the cycle. It becomes an emotional time for the students because they move, they leave their home, their friends, their school, and their support system, and they have to start anew. The seasons of arriving always follows, and that's the season that most of us, the military families who moved recently, are in right now. We're starting to get into the season of growing, which is one of my favorite seasons, and that's coming just on the horizon. And then after that is our happy place, which is the season of thriving, and that's the one where the kids are completely connected and relating to school, and we don't have the issues related to school transition. Okay, but here's the deal. In any of these seasons, at any time, military-connected students can experience what we like to call storms. Now, storms are unique to military life, and they include things like deployments, family separations, homecomings even, as even severe storms like combat loss or injury. But most storms, I'm not the most storm, but this storm that I'm talking about today includes things like that are related to the pandemic, virtual learning, lack of social connection, emotional and mental health issues caused or related to the pandemic. Any of these events have the potential to disrupt a student's learning. And this is when educators, schools, physicians, counselors, they all become part of the family's social network, or what we like to call the student advocacy team. I'll show you a quick video that will give you a good overview about each season, and then we'll talk about them a little bit more.
There are more than 1.5 million U.S. military kids. More than 60% are school age. Most military-connected students move 6 to 9 times from pre-K to high school graduation. Those moves can take place anytime during the school year. Academic, social, and emotional continuity is essential for all students at all levels. Students who live a mobile military life experience 4 seasons of transition as they leave behind a familiar school and enter a new school environment, acclimate to new teachers, classes, and friends, and integrate into a new school culture. Eventually, students begin to thrive in their new school community as they build self-confidence, explore passions, nurture deeper friendships, and develop resilience for the next transition. Storms of military life, such as deployment, injury, or loss, can happen in any season. The best support for military-connected students is a strong student advocacy team that includes the students' parents and teachers who understand the unique challenges of military life and their impact on a student's education. Other invested adults, such as coaches, counselors, and school liaison officers, can also be valuable team members. 3 key tools of cultivation enable the student advocacy team to effectively support a military-connected student: an understanding of military life and the seasons of transition, knowledge of the provisions of the Interstate Compact on educational opportunity for military children, a season's education binder. Mobile military-connected students need both continuity and resilience to grow academically, socially, and emotionally. A strong student advocacy team is a student's greatest ally, supporting students through each move, season of transition, and military life challenge. Visit seasonsofmymilitarystudent.com to find helpful resources, articles, and to learn more about how you can help a military student in any season of transition.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that brief video and you have a good understanding of what the seasons are. Okay, so here's my question to you. Which season do you believe is the hardest for military-connected students? And what season do you think is the hardest on parents? Are they the same or are they different? Tell me what you think. I think that there is no right answer and there's no wrong answer. It's just about how you handle things as a parent and what type of personality of your own child. For me personally, my family, the season of leaving is the hardest for my kids, by far. It is the one that's fraught with emotion and instability. But I think the season of arriving is the hardest on me as a parent. I don't know, Erica, did we get any responses out there?
So I think we got a lot of the same people expressing that all the details involved in the arriving are really overwhelming for the parent to manage, especially if you're navigating that while also helping your kids process the leaving, the saying goodbye, the preparing for something new. So both are challenging in their own ways. Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree. And like I said, it can be different for each person, and there's no right answer. It's just for us, I think it's really difficult for season of arriving for parents. But okay, so let's get into what the season of leaving and what it means. For most families who've moved or experienced the season of leaving, we believe that this happens before orders are even finalized. It's actually the hint or the anticipation that orders are coming. I mean, I've experienced it before. Like, we know this is a move year. We're waiting to find out where we're going, or maybe we're going to stay another year. You know, it's that in between process that kind of leaves parents at a lurch, but kids understand that it's coming for sure. This season instantly impacts a student's socially, emotionally, and academically as they prepare themselves for the inevitable PCS. Parents need educators to be aware of the compact throughout this entire season and touch base with these teachers and begin to make what I like to call an exit plan. We'll go over this in a future webinar, but for right now, I just wanted to acknowledge that parents have probably already felt this the last few months when they were moving over the summer or at the end of the school year last year. Many new families experience this without even understanding it. And at least for the past 2 seasons of leaving, 2020 and 2021, military families had experienced all this unrest and angst through a pandemic, which added extra stress. The next, but sometimes very complicated season is the season of arriving. And this is a season where many new families and students are currently in here in Fairfax County. It begins the day the family leaves their home, and for a new home, it's the day the moving trucks actually pull away and you pull away with it. It starts with preparation for the first day at a new school and continues through the first 2 or 3 weeks of school. And it's at that time where you're using the compact, the Military Child Interstate Compact Commission, the compact. That's when you're going to ensure students are registered in the correct classes. You're going to make sure they got the right subjects, their grade levels are correct, the credits for high school are transferring. You know and you understand the tryout process for the school, and there's so much more to this. It's also the most anxious time for parents, as we talked about before, why it's so hard on us. Here's the deal. We actually worry about everything in this season. Even though we've moved 7 times, 8 times, 14 times, it doesn't matter. Every single school treats us a little bit differently, and we handle things a little bit different with every age. And guess what, folks? We never, ever get used to it. Like, in a normal season of leaving, I personally think parents carry around what I like to call an invisible backpack full of stress, worry, and anxiety relating to getting kids prepared and connected to their new schools. And most schools don't really understand how stressful this particular time for military families are. I mean, that's just the truth. You know, sometimes it takes that just one person at a school who's just doing their job. They don't understand. But we come to them and they're not letting us register because maybe we don't have our shot records up to date, or they don't understand the compact, or this class isn't what we thought it was going to be. And when they tell us no or to come back, like, parents will break down in a puddle right there, because it's kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it can send a parent into tears instantly. And I know I felt this way. I know several of my peers have felt this way. So how about you guys? Have you felt this way before? I'm sure you have. If you've moved more than once and if you've experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's see. Let's go to the next slide. And this is kind of the anxiety. This is the anxiety that is layered with PCSing through a pandemic. It's layered anxiety. It's been a very difficult year this last year and the year before. Very difficult. PCSing through a pandemic was no joke. Layers upon layers of obstacles and maybe things that weren't normal that we're used to experiencing happen this year. And let me tell you, if you moved from overseas, it was akin to climbing Mount Everest. You guys had so many obstacles in front of you. So here's the deal. I want you to read through this a little bit, but I just want to make sure we understand why it was so hard, because education is state run, which means every single state and every school district handled the pandemic differently. Military families were kind of like the guinea pigs on how well schools fared, and their learning platforms mitigated their outbreaks. And we had to experience from state to state, school district to school district, or even country to country, and how each approached the pandemic. From, to go from 5 days a week in person to full hybrid learning, or the other way around, that was very difficult. Different learning platforms, different mitigation strategies, quarantine, missed school, missed learning, masks, no masks. It's like the virus acts differently from one state to the other, but we know it doesn't. It was absolutely insane for us moving from platform to platform, school to school. We were subjected to so many different policies that kind of at the end of the day, it makes our head spin. And this is above and beyond what we're used to, where we expect to be the challenges. And I recently added the last bullet, the Afghanistan withdrawal and the 20th anniversary of 9/11, because I know this affected many families, including my own. It was a very heavy in my house for a couple of days, and I need to acknowledge that because, I had to give my active duty spouse, my husband, some space for him to process this as well. Coming from a move and then adding this to it, I will tell you, it was a lot. Was it heavy in your house? I was just, I'm just thinking about that for a minute. If it was, I'm with you. You're not alone. Okay, so let's talk about military kids and their civilian peers when they move to a new school. We're so similar on so many ways. I mean, they're kids. Kids are just kids. But there are certain things that are unique to military life for new military students at a new school. I won't read them all to you, but I just want you to take a look at this list. This is why we are different. This is why we need that little extra support in the classroom or at the school or in our community. And the one I want to point out is third from the bottom. When we moved here not last year, the summer before in 2020, it was very difficult for my kids. We moved here not really knowing anybody. We had no support system in place. We were 100% hybrid learning, and we didn't have a bubble to kind of rely on. And we spent, I would say, 8 months in that state. We rarely moved out of that state. It was very, very tough on my kids. And I'm sure many of you have similar experiences to that as well. Okay, so I want to go pre-COVID. I want to go March 2020, if we can remember back what that was like. It seems so far away. But military kids have been doing this for a long time. They've been moving schools and doing school transition from place to place for a long time. So pre-COVID, MSEC, which is Military Child Education, did a survey called Military Kids Now. And they surveyed only kids, which is great because we got to hear it right from the horse's mouth about their top social and emotional challenges. And these are the 5 things that they said repeatedly. This was their top 5. And just by the way, they surveyed tweens and teens during the survey, and they got like 3,000 participants. So it was a pretty in-depth survey. What other social emotional challenges would you add to this list for your family? To me, this pretty much covered it before COVID, but I want to make note of this, that this was before the pandemic, before the layered anxiety that I had talked about, before the challenges, before the health risks, before the delayed orders that we had. It was the shortages of moving trucks, the lack of housing. Just imagine what the kids did before and pile that on top of what they experienced the last 2 years. Okay, so I want to talk about this. Where are we now? What should be happening within the school in the first 2 weeks if you have a new student? Well, the student should be advocating in small ways for themselves, communicating and interacting, taking risks, because I don't mean personal risks. I mean just a risk, like sitting with someone new, asking questions, raising their hands, putting themselves out there. and having some awareness if they are ahead or behind the material. We are in the season of arriving, and this is where we need to look where our children are today. Teachers should be clued into the emerging class dynamics, creating peer groups, communicating with parents, and looking for those gaps and overlaps. Another thing I want to talk about too is what happens if your student is not necessarily thriving right now during the season, not taking those risks. They're having changes in moods and behaviors. Maybe they have fear about school. They've lost interest in activities maybe that they had before the move. Maybe they've changed in their energy levels or their eating habits. Maybe they're physically not feeling great. These are red flags. These are things that you need to kind of pay attention to, and you need to seek out the support system that you need, either from the teacher, and a lot of schools have MFLACs available, and some other support systems, and we'll get through that in just a minute. But I just wanted to talk about kind of do a temperature check on where you think you should be with your kid. Okay, so we are on the horizon of season of growing if you just moved this year. This is when we look at things. We grow academically, we grow emotionally, we grow socially. The season of growing starts as soon as the season of arrival ends, and we look at how they're adjusting in their new school and their new life. Season of growing ensures the alignment of learning and looking for those gaps and those overlaps I talked about before. Looking to see if they have repeated material, if they're missing some skills or some lessons. The season of growing is also an alignment of the student's personal and academic adjustment to their new school. Okay, are they adjusting socially? Have they made those friendship connections we talked about before? Or are you seeing those physical changes in your child? Have they taken risks, or are they not taking any risks? This is kind of what parents need to be paying attention to. Have they made those friendship connections? And this is the best time right now is to check in with your teachers and ask about these gaps, overlaps, social and emotional issues. Okay, so I've said a mouthful, I've talked about all the seasons, what you guys should be looking about right now, at least the season of arriving and season of growing. Let's talk about some strategies and tools that are out there. My favorite thing is the education binder. We'll talk about parent-teacher conferences and about making those connections that maybe your kid is struggling and haven't made them. We'll give you some ideas. Okay, here we go. This is the education binder, and this is my bread and butter. I believe in this tool so much, and I believe it helps all military connected students, and quite frankly, all students can use this. What is an ed binder and why do we need it? Okay, so as you know, I think the stat that everyone's always quoted is that the average military connected student moves between 6 and 9 times through their kindergarten through high school experience. And I will tell you, I am one of those families that's exactly where we are. We've moved 9 times. We've changed schools that many times. An education binder provides the history and continuity that is missing when we change schools. It actually grows with the student. It's a 3-ring binder that you can update anytime that you need to grow with your student. If you start it now as like a 3rd grader, a 2nd grader, or a kindergartner, it will grow all the way up into your high school student. And your high school student will use it for college applications. It will help with college essays. It will remind them of the volunteer work they've done or the interests they had or the challenges that they've pushed through. It will help them with scholarships and applying for jobs even. So this is a great way to document the growths and the challenges that your kid has actually had. I call it the portable teacher's lounge. And I grew up in the same city all of my life. I'm from Las Vegas. So I grew up in the same city. I went to the same school as everybody else. I never moved through my entire year. Everybody knew me as soon as I walked in the door. Oh, that's Stacy. You know, I know her mother. Yep. Okay. You're going to like her, or you're going to have troubles with her, or this is who she's going to be. They were able to connect. The teachers were able to talk about the students coming in. But here's the deal. As military connected students, they have no reference. They don't know who they are. They have no background. They haven't had their sibling. They have no references or no prior exposure. So this is important. It's a portable teacher's lounge is what I call the education binder, because it allows them to kind of see our history. And last is the teacher-to-teacher letter. This is important, and I'm going to explain this to you just briefly because it's a lot bigger. And I think I'll throw in a bunch of links on how to do all of these things at the end, and send it to you in a PDF with active links on how to build an ed binder and teacher-teacher letter and other stuff. But what is a teacher-to-teacher letter? Okay, so ideally, it's a letter that when you're about ready to move during the season of leaving, that your current teacher writes to your child's future teacher. Now, this is great for elementary school. This is a great way to say, and I've done this every time I moved. And so with most of my peer group, because I advocate for this so much, is this what kind of a student is she? I'll just say little Johnny because I like to use little Johnny. What kind of student is little Johnny? What's his strengths? What's his weakness? Are there any tips and tricks as a teacher that you would recommend as that portable teacher's line that we talked about? What's the strong suit? What kind of curriculum have you had before? Is it a strong reader? These are all things that a teacher can put in the letter and you can take with you and you can give it to them on the first day to your new teacher. Now, what does this mean for older kids? This is letters of reference. These are things that if you move, for instance, I moved from Florida to Virginia. My son was heavily into STEM and science Olympiads and everything else. And so I had his science teachers write a letter about his commitment and his work ethic and what he has done in science Olympiads to transfer into this year, where they asked for a teacher reference. Well, in order for them to get into the club, we just showed up. I don't have a teacher reference, but I do have a teacher reference in this letter. It's a teacher to teacher. As you get older, it moves into letters of reference. This could be coaches, dance teachers, soccer coaches. I mean, like it can be whatever you need it to be. Okay, so quickly, let's go inside what's in the binder. Now, it's up to you. This is your binder for your kid. Each one of these are tabs. Okay, so each one of these are separated by a tab in a 3-ring binder, but I'm going to start with report cards. Why are report cards so important? I want you to do 3 years worth of report cards, not just one, because teachers and counselors, especially if you have a unique learner, it's important for them to see progress or regress. It's important for you as a parent to annotate that report card that says, yeah, my husband came back from deployment then, and we took off several weeks. That's why these absences were bad. He wasn't able to make up his grade. Or this is an injury that she had. She broke her leg playing soccer, and she was out for a while, and she had some tough times. So it's where you can kind of notate some of the issues and give a little bit of background on these report cards. I'm going to talk about gifted, or I talk about 504 and IEPs. Okay, if your child has a 504 or an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, you know the onus is on you to document and to be organized. Military kids, especially special education, deserve their own section here. There's no doubt. I am not going to even do it justice talking about special education right now for military connected kids, but I will. I promise. You get your own webinar. But know that 504s and IEP is part of the overall picture of your student. It is not the only thing teachers and counselors and psychologists need to see. They need to see all of your kids. You need to document more than just what's in the classroom. And this is what the education binder is for. I'm going to gifted identification. Now, remember I said before that education is a state-run entity. A state or school district could require an IQ test, and this is I'm telling you the truth, can require an IQ test of say 125 to be considered gifted. Now you may move to the next state, which we have, and the IQ test for that, the litmus, the minimum you have to get is 130. Does that mean my kid is no longer gifted because we moved different states? Of course not. Absolutely not. The truth is, every single state has their own gifted identification requirements. And the good thing is, the compact covers this. It's called placement. And The compact, which all 50 states have covered and signed and agreed upon, and every state has its own commissioner, and every state also has a whole list of people that are there to help ensure that this compact is followed. In the compact, it says that the school district has flexibility in placement and needs to honor the prior placement, including gifted, until they have a chance to reassess and test on their own. So just remember that, and I can go into that a little bit in more detail later, but every single state is different when it comes to gifted identification, including, I'll just say this really quick, there are some states that do actual education plans. So not IEPs, but EPs that document would document a student's gifted assessments and enrichment programs. But then I can move to DODEA, which if you're in a small DODEA school, they may not have the resources or the enrichment processes, enrichment tools to be able to pull you out for gifted studies. So just remember, every place is different. There are, in this binder, again, tabs as I was talking, you want enrichment services like reading help or ESL or anything else you want to put under here, behavioral or peer relationship documentation, sports and hobbies, tell their story, tell them who they are. Are they an amazing Taekwondo? Do they have certificates in there? Absolutely, put that in there. That just gives background to a teacher. Teacher letter, I talked about this before. This is teachers, but also coaches, music teachers, dance instructors, anything that you think that might be of interest in a new community. Tests and assessments, IQ tests, standardized testing, which of course, as you probably know this already, is different in every state, each having different interpretations and tests on different material. Of course, it's all age appropriate and meets standards, but it's based on what the school district needs to teach. Again, different states have different curriculum. We went over a Common Core not too long ago, which was fantastic in some states, but if others, not all states use it. So it can be really confusing, especially in material and how they test. So what else am I talking about? Let's talk about graduation requirements. This is really tricky for those military teens out there. The compact can help you, but it's important that parents document and communicate with the future school before the move. You want to get that contact person. I could talk about this for days because military teens, they deserve their own webinar too. So quickly going through this, conference notes at parent-teacher conferences, work samples, especially for the younger kids. This could be handwriting, art, math problems. For the older kids, it could be book lists, essays, or projects they completed. Shot records. Okay, here's my tip to everybody right here, right now. Always get a physical before you leave your current location. This is good to have for summer programs, camps, and it can take forever to establish a new pediatrician in an area. And sometimes, just trust me, save yourself the pain and get it before. Volunteer hours, this is good for things like National Junior or National Honor Society, scholarships, award applications for later. Sometimes kids forget all they did 4 moves ago. And of course, a copy of the compact. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to take the copy of the compact, put it in the back of the 3-ring binder, and I want to take a little highlighter and I want you to highlight the part of the compact that applies to you. My favorite wording in the compact is flexibility in placement. That's going to be your mojo right there. That's going to help you understand that the school has permission and the authority to be flexible in placement. And that's usually where most of the heartburn comes in when transferring schools. All right, I know that was a lot and I'm sorry, but there's so much in this education binder. I think we're gonna, again, I'll drop a link in the PDF where you can look and take your time and build one on your own. Let's talk about your first parent-teacher conference. Yep, that's coming up in October. No matter where you live, this is what it happens in October mostly. The first parent-teacher conference is a great time to intentionally assess the student's initial placement, academic work, and social adjustments. The first rule of thumb, ready? Listen more and talk less. Or what I like to do sometimes is just sit on my hands. Here's the deal. Let the teacher do their job. Listen to someone who sees your child as their student, not your child. It's a different window and a different view, and it's important to listen. I suggest bring the student's education binder to the meeting, but here's the deal. Ideally, this ed binder goes to the teacher prior to the conference, like the first day of school. Allows the teacher some time to review it, and it will give them a much better understanding of the student, and you're ready for the parent-teacher conference. Okay. I highly recommend parents to bring their students as appropriate and as age appropriate, and the students should come prepared to ask their own questions. You need to be able to empower the child to speak for themselves and address any concerns. Also, this is the time to share your story. This is the time to tell them how hard it's been, or the struggle you're having at home, or your own challenges. I mean, you don't have to, TMI, but the point is you need to tell them that this was not a good transition, that we are still struggling. We are not connecting. This is the time to do it. And this is the time to ask your teachers for help. They need to know, either from past deployments, upcoming deployments, or even homelessness. I mean, we've been homeless before. We haven't had I mean, I've sent my kids to school from a TLF multiple times. Yeah, it's not a permanent home. And it does make a difference. And the other part, this is a big one, that's why it's in capitals. This is still not a normal year, not by a long shot. And these teachers, they have put in some hard work, and they're doing the very best they possibly can under incredible, stressful, and changing circumstances. Give them grace. Let them do their job, for sure. This is also a time where I want you to schedule a follow-up. People forget to do that. If you didn't get all your questions or you ran out of time, schedule a follow-up. You're allowed to do that, and the teacher will accommodate you. All right, so what should you ask during the parent-teacher conference? Okay, these are the biggies. I would ask things like peer relations, like how are they doing at lunch, recess, free time? I'm not gonna lie to you, even as a mother of a high schooler, I want to know what they're doing at lunch. Are they sitting alone? Have they connected by now? It's been week 3, we're in week 4-ish. Has he met anybody? Is he alone? Those are big questions for me. Is the student participating in groups, asking questions? Is the student ahead or behind on their own in their curriculum? Academic expectations. This is big. This is that syllabus. What are the expectations? But more importantly, what kind of support do they have if they're not meeting expectations? I have anxious kids. I have very anxious kids. I have one in particular. It's a very anxious child. And I will tell you, if she begins to fail in a classroom, it will be directly tied to her self-esteem. So this is what you want to ask for: support. How is a teacher going to support a kid that's struggling? Is there homework after school help? Are there tutors available? Is there supplements? Is there extra credit? Find that support. And ask for assistance in friendship making. I know this is kind of weird, but teachers are the boots on the ground. They see your kid as a student, not just your child. And if their student is struggling making friends, this is where a teacher can help. And like I said, this is the time where you share concerns academically, mismatched curriculum, share your student's journey, and I want you to paint a full picture if you can. Okay. All right. Here's what I'm trying to get at during this entire webinar for new students, and even students who have been here for a year, maybe haven't really connected. Most military connected children need to be socially and emotionally connected before their academics can become a priority. Okay, so I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I'm sorry about that, but I should have. So I'm doing a study right now with, I'm in a study with a group of 3 women, Amanda Tremillos, Dr. Amanda Tremillos. Again, she has her doctoral in education. And the lead of the study called MAPS, which is military adolescents through a pandemic study in 2021. The lead on this her name is Dr. Jennifer Thomas, and she's a military spouse with 5 kids. Imagine that really quick. She is also a professor at Pacific Lutheran University, and she's the one that started the study and asked Amanda and I to support her. What this study does, and why this slide continues to stay up here, And the purpose of the story was to explore the lived experiences of the highly mobile military adolescent, so that's a tween and a teen, and their parents when they moved during the pandemic. And the idea is that at the end of the study, we're going to foster some collaboration between healthcare members, like nurses and primary care providers, schools, and parents. One of the emerging themes from the study was how disconnected, lonely, and isolated military kids felt after their move during the pandemic and starting school, especially if it was hybrid. It was universal, and most wished in some way that there was some sort of new student ambassador program, or somehow they were able to connect with kids organically. You know, there comes a point as a parent, you can no longer do play dates. It's not that simple for these kids. So for the older ones, they needed to be able to connect organically, and it was very hard during the pandemic, and probably still pretty tough. Participants drove the interview, and that's the cool part about it, which is so unique. It's wonderful because this particular type of study is different. When themes surface, they surface organically and aren't based off like a full set of questions. It's what came from the kids' mouth and their parents. Okay, so here are some common questions for military families. How do I better connect my kids at a new school community? You know, every school community is different, but to me, in my opinion, this begins with the teachers. I read something one time about making friendships and connecting with friendships. And in order to make a friendship, you need multiple points of contact over a period of time. So to me, the best place to start with this is your teacher. This is the best place to start with making those in-school connections for your kid. I remember a story about my son. He was struggling. We had moved from overseas. It was a tough move in Florida. He wasn't making friends. He's extremely shy. He's introverted. And he actually came home one day to me and said, I want to homeschool. I don't want to do this anymore. And it broke my heart because he's such a great student and he loves school. So I reached out immediately to a class where I thought he would find his peers, happened to be a math class, and I wrote the teacher and I said, help me help you help him. And I explained the situation and kind of where he is. And she says, Mom, this is the best part. I still even tear up when I think about it. She says, Mom, I got this. Who do you want him to sit next to? And I said, well, he talks about this boy Dylan in his class. He's kind of fun and he's kind of popular. And is it possible? And she says, I got it. They'll be math buddies for the next 6 weeks. And they were. And it began a great friendship, great family. And we ended up having a really good experience from this that is still 4 years later, part of our lives. So just remember, the teachers are there to help you. And I also believe it's my job as a parent to make sure that all the doors of opportunity are unlocked, but it's the child's job to open the doors and walk through to participate. Parents, you need to look for ways to get them engaged, try something new, get out there to meet their peers, just shake it up a little bit. But ultimately, it's up to them to make the connection. You can't do it for them. What are the local resources for military families? Well, I've got a big list at the end of this presentation, and we're going to send you a PDF with active links. You're going to love it. What role can a PTA play? Well, here's the deal. The PTA, I'm all about the PTA on this one. I think the PTA should own the student ambassador programs, or I think a PTA needs to offer a military family liaison, especially if they have a school demographic that supports a large military community, and help welcome, which I call hail, or farewell them when they have to move, say, during the mid-year move. It's as simple as starting a military kids club at your school. I've got the blueprint for you. I'm telling you, these links, all you have to do is click, print, and there you go. A military kids club is a lot of fun, and it can be part of the PTA as well. You're going to address the gaps and overlaps during the parent-teacher conference. That's a big one. And you're going to build that ed binder right now. If you don't have it done, you're going to build it because you're going to need it. And lastly, how do I prepare for a mid-year move? We're going to talk about that in October. But the most important thing I'm going to tell you right now is build that binder. Get out a 3-ring binder, pull all your documents together, organize it, chronologically, and there'll be a link in the resource page to be able to help you do that. It's also in the book. If you guys want more information, my book, Seasons of My Military Student, has all this information in it as well. Okay, so what can you do? I talked about starting a military kids club. I strongly suggest that you join the Virginia PTA. They have a lobbying arm for military families. It's important that you lend your voice to this. Start a student ambassador program. Do right for the family coming in behind you. If it wasn't done for you, do it for them. Make it a little easier. Let's put some good karma out there. It's just very simple. We've got some great tips for making this happen and some links. I want you to leverage social media. You have a tribe out there full of military connected families who are willing to help you. Just ask. And more importantly, get them out in sports, scouts, hobbies, let them try new things. Purple Star schools, they are big across all the country, but no bigger are they than they here in Virginia. If your school is not a Purple Star school, which means they have not taken the opportunity to apply for this, this is where you want to engage your teachers and your principals about helping to do this. How you do this is, well, I don't know if you know how you do it, but I'll send a link to it. The most important thing you need to take away from this is that Purple Star schools are perfect for military families. It encourages engagement, professional development. It makes sure that they are supporting and engaging in the military family population. You can also start, your own military family group too. Coffees with other parents out there. Get connected. Sometimes my favorite saying is, if you want to go to a party, sometimes you have to throw your own. So get involved and get out there. Okay, so here's my big list of resources. Again, I will provide a PDF with active links of all of this. Some of these are official links. Some of these are not official links. I want to point out just a couple on here. If you do have a child with a 504 or an IEP, or they are EFMP, EFMP and Me, which is from Military One Source, is a great resource. There are lots of people there to help you. And the one right below it, Partners in Promise, was started by a friend of mine, Michelle Norman. She is a mom, a military spouse, and she started this program called Partners in Promise. They are there to help military families just like yourself kind of navigate the school system and give you some really good tips and tricks for advocating. The other one I want to point out right in here is the military. Where is it? Our military kids. I need to touch on the Guard and Reserve families that are out there. School transition may not be part of your life right now, but you're supporting students through deployments and homecomings. And some Guard and Reserves actually move, and they mostly move here, by the way. This might be you someday. And I want to note that our military kids is solely devoted to Guard and Reserve kids and kids of wounded warriors. They offer grants for all the extras that kids need during deployments and also during the pandemic. The fun stuff like dance or baseball, music. They are the most amazing organization. They're one of my favorites, and they're little known by those outside of their circles. So pay attention to that. There's all kinds of stuff. Again, I want to give a shout out to the publisher of my book, Military Family Books, and Alvarita Publishing. It's a one-stop shop for all books relating to military family life. So if you don't know about them, take a look at them. So I think that pretty much sums this up, Erica. This is how you can get a hold of me, or actually this is the book. This is about resources about the book offers. We can help you anyway. You can send them an email and someone will get back to you. But I want to encourage you, if you are a Facebook user, the Seasons of My Military Student is a public, well, it's actually a closed group, and it's Seasons of My Military Student Parent and Teacher Group K through 12. That is a closed group, and it's about 3,000 military parents, SLOs, which is school liaisons, commissioners from MIC3, MSEC, parent to parent, educators. They are from all over. And if you just have one question, I'm telling you, your tribe will come up in 2 seconds and answer it for you and help you. They're all over the world, from Japan to Germany to Belgium to Alaska, and all 50 states are located in there. So if you get an opportunity, join us. We'd be happy to have you. So, and I'm going to offer this to you, me. If you need help, I believe that if I can make it easier on you, you will make it easier on somebody else, and we'll just pay it forward as much as we can. So if you need extra help or you have questions, there's my stuff. Please let me know if I can help you in any way. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for Fairfax County Parent Resource Center for taking the time and dedicating some of their resources to military connected families.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy. We have just a few questions that came in through the chat and wanted to run through. So one, everyone is so grateful for the resources that you have shared, but one person shared, what about as a single parent? How would you recommend navigating? All of this looks amazing, but can feel a little overwhelming, either for single parents or someone who's taking the bulk of responsibility while juggling a career. What advice might you have?
Well, first of all, I mean, what I probably want to tell you is what I probably shouldn't say online, but you are amazing for doing this on your own. This is so difficult. This life is not an easy life, and to do it solo is even, it's harder. I'm just gonna throw that out there. You are valid in what you're feeling. You need to go to the other, what I call the boots on the ground, which is the teachers. You need to be in succinct and coordination and communication with every single teacher your child has. They are going to be the person you're going to lean on when you need help, especially academically, socially, or emotionally. And I also say I call it the tribe. It's my tribe. Or the hive. We are all connected out here in Fairfax County, and we're military families. If you just put up one white flag, I guarantee you we're all coming to help you. I'll make you a meal. I don't even know you, and I'll make you a meal for dinner. I know that I am not alone in feeling this way. Military families will always support each other. Single, married, doesn't matter. So most important thing, if you feel overwhelmed, ask. So that's what I would suggest.
That's awesome. And one thing at a time, right? It all
right.
So someone else shared that they recently volunteered to head up a PTA military family program in their school. So just as you said, if you want to be at the party, sometimes you have to make it. And they asked, is your website the best place to go to for some of the blueprints you spoke about, such as the Student Ambassador Program?
Yeah. Okay. So I have absolutely. I'm going to we're going to give you some links to this stuff, but because Military Kids Club, I think I've done it in 3 different schools, so I know it works. I've gone through all the pain of showing you what doesn't work. I literally lay it out step by step, month by month, all the activities, the different ways to engage. And those are for elementary schools. It works best for elementary schools, and you can't treat middle schoolers and high schoolers the same as you treat elementary schoolers. I just cannot speak to that enough. They require different stuff. They don't require lunch bunches. They need something more organic. So to me, that is a student-led transition program. There are programs out there, not just my own, but for example, MSEC, Military Child Education, they offer student to student. I happen to know like Hayfield here in Fairfax County, Hayfield High School has a phenomenal student to student program. They win awards all the time. So sometimes you just have to see what's out there and be able to bring it to your school. I think there's Anchors. What is it called? Erica, do you know what that is? Anchors to Anchors program. There's another one like that.
And student ambassador programs. There's all sorts of different programs. And just like you said, sometimes it's just a matter of asking your school, have you considered offering a club or resources for military kids, or how can I help be a part of that?
And that sometimes you just have to kind of throw your hand up and say, let me help you do this. But yes, you can find my stuff on the website, ask more, and send me an email. I can walk you through some of it. If you have older kids, I can walk you through some of that stuff too.
So then related to that, what if you're not military, but you're in the foreign service in some way, shape, or form? Can you still participate or create similar programs and be involved in those?
Oh my gosh, you speak right to my heart, because when we were in Florida, we had a military kids club. I called it that, but it was open to FBI because they had a big FBI presence there. It was opened also to foreign service officers. It was also open to because when we were located, CENTCOM had a lot of foreign military families who come in from all over. And so we would invite them as well. Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. And here's the other part. The education binder applies to you as well. That will work perfect for you, especially State Department families.
Awesome. So then what about matching? You've said that things are different for middle and high schoolers. So what can we do about matching our kids with peers or buddies or becoming student ambassadors? What suggestions might you have for that?
Oh, there's so many, and it depends really about the age, because elementary and below, you're still able to do these play groups and do these play dates. And I remember one time I actually reached out to the teacher and gave the teacher, when my kids were little and we moved to a new school and we were far away from the school. We were in a different neighborhood. I wrote their basically a calling card, for lack of a better word. It had my kids' names, like my address, and I gave it to the teacher to give out to every single kid. I've cast a large net. That's great for elementary school kids. But high schoolers are a little bit different, and it's harder. And they think for themselves. Their identity, when you hit middle school, by the way, your identity becomes outside of you. Anything, when you're younger, your identity lies within your family unit. When you start to get older, your identity lies outside with your peer group. It's crucial that they get involved. Find the place where you need them to get involved the most, whether it be school activities, hobbies, or connect with your teacher, counselor, MFLAC, however you need to do it, but that's where you need to start.
Awesome. So now someone asked, how do you help prepare your kids for a move that's coming and they're already dreading? So just like we talked about, that's what the kids are dreading the most, leaving. I know we're going to address that more in a future webinar, but what suggestions might you have if that's already impacting the now?
Oh my gosh, see, I'm already getting hot. I'm already breaking on hives because I know what this feels like. I know where you are. I get this. And one thing I want to say right off the bat is kids will look to you and how you act as a parent moving forward. How are you addressing this? Or what is your attitude towards it? Are you dreading it? Are you saying things? They're looking at your monologue and they're going to follow your lead, especially the younger ones. So remember not to project too much. Sometimes you need to make it an adventure. You need to start, I always look at it, what Amanda and I used to say it. We used to say we'd turn the PCS into an entire adventure. Okay, we're gonna go here. You pick where you wanna go. You wanna go to, tell me the monuments you wanna see before we leave. You have to do that. During the pandemic though, that did not work because you could not make it an adventure. There was nothing shut. There was nothing open. You had to stay within your bubble, within your family unit. So that was different for them. But this year, I think you might be able to get away with some adventure. Stay positive, stay focused, build your ed binder. Start now.
Fantastic. And just for those who aren't attending this live, wanted to share a little feedback from the chat. But a lot of people were sharing that they can empathize with how the pandemic has made things more challenging and just having to be more flexible or advocate more. So for example, one family shared that they PCS couldn't find housing, didn't have for their kids to start school. So they reached out to a principal in the area they were hoping to land in and just really advocated. And FCPS was willing to be flexible in that case. And so just to continue, as Stacy has said, advocate, reach out for that support, enlist that help, and whatever we can do as a village, we absolutely will try. So Stacy, do you have any last thoughts before we close up today?
Well, and I think I'm glad you mentioned that. And of course, I've covered so much material, but the one thing that was really different this year was the housing shortage. And it really put a different layer of anxiety. Usually we're able to find our house. Usually we find the school and then we find the house. This year it was turned upside down. We had to find the house, and whatever school we got, we got. Luckily, we're in a great school district, lots of support here. There's no bad schools here in Fairfax County. So I think that was a plus for us. But I do want to acknowledge that housing really added an entire new layer to hard. So thank you guys. You guys did it. You guys did it.
I just want to thank you, Stacy, for presenting this information and for coming back for future webinars to lead for our families, and to you families and educators who took the time to listen to this, to participate live or watch it on YouTube. We are so grateful for you prioritizing the military students in your life, and hope you will take advantage of these incredible resources. Stacy being willing to support you, the Parent Resource Center with FCPS is here to support you. Please do reach out. You are not alone. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Erica. Thanks, guys.